Good morning, class. Today we're going to talk about chapter leads. When authors start their chapters, they have really specific ways that they begin the chapter. You may notice a variety of this in your writing or in your reading, or you may never have really paid attention to it before. But when the authors start in a specific way, there's usually a really good reason why they're starting that way. And so here are a couple different ways that authors start their chapter leads. Dialogue, which is pretty easy to indicate. Sometimes there's immediately a conversation going on between two or more characters. So if an author chooses that, they're trying to introduce you to the characters through the way that they talk and also introduce the conflict between the two of them or build relationships. The second is a backstory where the author starts right in by telling the long story of how people met or what happened way before the story even began. You may notice that a lot too. Sometimes it's action, right into the moment where a character is doing something wrong or something's happening to a character, or maybe something wonderful is happening to the character, but that action right at the beginning, the author's using it to indicate and to teach you something about the characters usually. A strong statement. Sometimes there's just a short sentence or even not even a whole sentence. You might think, why is the author writing in fragments? But the truth is that the author is writing in a way, just a short, strong statement to get you thinking and to realize something big is coming. And another way is a setting. The author might start the story with the setting, describing the time, the place, sensory details, the season. A lot of times the season has something to do with what's happening. So if it's in the winter, maybe there's sadness. And if it's in the fall, maybe there's change coming because of the leaves turning. If it's the spring, maybe there's growth or beginnings or things like that, because in the spring things grow, you know, like flowers and stuff. Okay, so these are some of the ways that authors begin their chapters, and sometimes it's a combination of more than one. Okay. So today we're going to look at orbiting Jupiter. Orbiting Jupiter. And we're going to see if we can think about how Gary Schmidt leads readers in his book. So I'm going to open up the book. Chapter 1. Oops, you can already kind of see what's happening there. Before you agree to have Joseph come live with you, Miss Strout said, there are one or two things you ought to understand. She took out a State of Maine Department of Health and Human Services folder and laid it on the kitchen table. My mother looked at me for a long time, and then she looked at my father. He put his hand on my back. Jack, you should know what we're getting into, same as us, he said. He looked down at me, maybe you more than anyone. Okay, so clearly this is starting with dialogue, but you can see there's also an indication of setting because we know it's Maine, the state of Maine, which I've never been to. Have you ever been there? We have a sense of characters because we have the Mrs. Stroud, the mom, the dad, and the boy who's the narrator. So we're learning a few different things just with the dialogue. So if you think about that, you know, authors are crafting that lead to show layers of information right in the first couple lines to really like hook you in. We know time, we know place, we know characters, and we have a sense that there's something going on here. Okay, so first I identified the type of lead. Then I thought about some of the questions that might be answered in the chapter. So we might find out, who is this person coming to their home? Who is Mrs. Stroud exactly? What does she have to do with everything? What is going to be the impact on the narrator, because he says it's up to you, like you should know more than anybody else. So these are some of the things I'm thinking about, even I've only just read the first page, okay? And I think the author really wants us to know about the dynamics in the family, but also how whoever is coming to stay with this family is really going to make an impact. And so this story seems to be about the narrator, but also whoever's coming to stay with them. Okay. So now it's your turn. So I'd like you to turn to page 25 in your books. Turn to page 25. All right, so that's chapter 2, you can see. So I'd like you to read this on your own, like quietly. Take out a sticky note or notebook, whatever you have handy. Sticky note. And I'd like you to write 1, what kind of lead or leads you're noticing. 2, what the lead is trying to make you think about. And 3, what you think the author's reasons might be. All right, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to really quickly put you into some breakout rooms so you can talk with a neighbor about what leads you found, what it makes you think about, and what the author's reasons might potentially be, okay? When you're in the breakout rooms, I'm going to come in and check real quick on you to see how you're doing and to make sure we understand the leads, the reasons, and why the authors might be making those decisions. Okay, for the last part of our mini lesson today, I want you to take out your choice novel and do the reading on your own. As you're reading, we have a good 20 minutes left of class, so you can read. Use the sticky note to identify the leads of each chapter and really start paying attention to number one, identify the lead. Is it dialogue, backstory, action, strong statement, setting? What kind of information the author is showing you in the first couple lines, and why do you think the author is beginning the chapter in that way? You know, even more fancy, you might be and want to think about, like, if they started in a different way, how might that feel? So those are some different things to think about. Okay, so we're paying attention to chapter leads, we're paying attention to author's choices, and as we continue to read, let's notice how the authors are shaping our understanding of the story by the way they begin the chapter. And there's our chapter leads.